Hello everybody. These days, as a somewhat established YouTuber, getting access to cars is reasonably easy. In fact, I can even summon up, on occasion, vehicles direct from the manufacturer, like some kind of automotive Gandalf. However, that wasn't always the case. Back in the early days, when I had only a few thousand subscribers, I was really at the mercy of family, friends, and those basically who took pity on me to get cars for content. One of the companies to support me back in the old days were the Donalds Group. They provided an MX-5, what was my first, by those standards, hit review, and also a Volvo V90, which was really my first Volvo experience and a car that I quite liked. A couple of months ago, a chap from the Donalds Group got in touch. He congratulated me on how the channel had grown and said if there was anything else that they could do to help out, that they would be more than happy to do so. Well, I didn't forget their kindness to me in the early days, and I said yes, I would love to do something with you guys again. Now, they've got a few brands in group, including Mazda, Kia, but the one that interests me at the moment is Volvo. Partly because I have no official relationship with Volvo at the minute, but also because it's a company whose products I think are still somewhat underrated in the UK. I also have a particular interest in their cars because they are owned by the same manufacturer, Geely, who now own the majority of Lotus. So how well Volvo do, really, to me, is almost a prediction of the future for what might happen down at Lotus. Today I'm driving an XC90, the biggest car in the Volvo lineup, their most grown-up and mature family wagon. And it's mature in more ways than one. This car is now about 6 years old as a model, and that means that it is coming to the end of its life. Now, you might think that meant that it just felt a little bit old and out of date inside, but actually, that's not true. The screen here is perhaps a little smaller than you'd find in something like a Tesla, but it's still very nice, very bright, easy to read, and plenty high resolution. Similarly, the driver's display down here, their stab at virtual cockpit, is a little bit basic. It makes the same mistake as some other manufacturers in the fact that it simply replicates what you got with the old-fashioned analog dials. All you can really have between your two counters is a map, your media information, or nothing. And that seems like something of a wasted opportunity. However, this car demonstrates quite thoroughly the difference between luxury features and luxury. All of the materials in here are really nice. There's loads of leather everywhere. The Swedish manufacturer has several trim levels available. The base one is Momentum, and you then have really a choice of two. You've got Inscription and you've got R Design. Broadly speaking, Inscription is the more luxurious one and R Design is the more sporty one. For a car like this, really, I think you want to go all out luxury. This Inscription Pro model has a few extra features on top, such as 20-inch alloys, Nappa leather, black ash inlays, lane keep assist, and chrome finishers on the exterior. Those are all standard with the base Inscription. The Pro is normally around £6,000 more and adds a heated steering wheel, the air suspension system, bendy headlights, and a heads-up display if you don't spec the heated windscreen. You also get 21-inch alloys. As you would expect with a Volvo, they remain a world leader in safety. Few manufacturers are as keen to talk about this aspect of their cars. Although the gap has probably closed in recent years thanks to ever-tightening legislation, Volvo are still ahead of the game and are constantly going above and beyond to find ways of making their vehicles the safest they can be. The options on this car are actually pretty limited. You have the beautiful glass sunroof up here, you have the 360-degree parking cameras with park assist, and you've got some extra collision avoidance stuff. There really isn't a lot to option on these, and that means that the price of them actually isn't that hideous. New, this car would have been about £65,000, but there is a small fly in the ointment. The T5, which is the 250 horsepower 4-cylinder turbo petrol, is no more. This is now a discontinued model. It's been replaced by the B series cars, so all of the petrol cars in the Volvo lineup are now hybrids. This means that this car is up for sale at a ridiculously good price. £48,000 for a 69 plate, so a brand new, essentially, top spec Volvo. That's a hell of a thing. Later this week, I have a Range Rover being delivered to the house, and the price of that is more than double what this is. Now, as you can probably tell, I've decided to take this car down some roads that I don't know at all, because you know what? These are the kind of roads that in some ways are both best and worst for this type of car. It's a nice big tall thing with a very commanding view at the front. You can see plenty of bonnet, which is always great, which means you can place the car fairly easily. It's also extraordinarily comfortable. This car has the 4-corner air ride system, and you know what? Even on these 22-inch wheels, the ride is superb. This is a genuinely comfortable car. I really like these seats, and the quality of the leather is absolutely excellent. Really nice place to be. If you look close enough, you'll still notice a few signs of Volvo's Ford ownership from the recent past, notably in the switches down here. But generally speaking, this feels like an incredibly well put together car. There's no creaks, there's no rattles. It's a nice thing to be in. Overall, this car feels like a very high quality product. From where I'm sitting, there is really only one major fault, and that's up front. A 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo may be flavour of the month, but to be perfectly honest, in a car of this size, it just doesn't feel right. It honestly doesn't. I can't complain whatsoever for the performance, and the gearbox also does a very decent job too. It's certainly not a performance vehicle. The car is just far too heavy for the engine for that. And I can't help but think how brilliant this thing would be if Volvo gave it a serious engine. Now, I know that they do a T8 model, which may also have been renamed, and that had a 400-odd horsepower petrol hybrid. That is probably quite a bit of fun and would be my pick of the bunch. I haven't driven one, but really, if you're a sort of petrol head person like me and you want a car like this, I think you do want some description of poke in it, and that would be ideal. For everybody else that's not too worried about the performance figures and they want a car that just does the job, this seems to do that. Unfortunately, you can hear the engine quite well, and it is just a little bit on the coarse side. I'd like to know what Volvo's diesel engines are like, because they also may suit the car a little bit better. Diesel sort of low-end torque characteristics often work well with cars of this size and type. The car is also a genuine 7-seater. I can actually fit myself in the rear row, although you are compromised with legroom in the back row and then in the middle row too. But it can be done, so those aren't just seats for kids. The upside of that big boot as well is that when you don't have the rear seats up, you've got a huge load space, which can be increased if you lower the middle row of seats too, and they fold basically flat, giving you massive carrying capacity in this car. That is what a 4-wheel drive car really should be all about. Volvo's most popular car at the moment is the XC40. It's their smallest SUV, and it's based on an all-new platform, and you can expect to see more cars spun off that in the near future. However, for the meantime, there isn't really anything that wrong with the old XC90. And if you're looking for a nice, big, luxurious car with plenty of features in it at a reasonable price, you could do a hell of a lot worse. This car is basically £15,000, nay, £17,000 cheaper than its list price, and honestly, it still feels like a 65 grand car to me in here. So many vehicles I've driven recently have got all the tech, but just fail on that whole luxury feel. This one doesn't. It's really rather special, and exactly the kind of car that I can see you going basically anywhere in. I just want it to have a bit of a spicier engine, really, and perhaps a sexier colour. It's again one of my few criticisms of Volvo. Isn't really much in terms of exciting colours in the range, but it's definitely a car that I like, and I could see myself doing a very long journey in it very happily. So XC90 I like. Not the best thing out there, but right about now it's a bit of a bargain.